The warm glow of a Saturday evening filled the Jefferson household with excitement. For weeks, the family had been saving for a special night out, a rare dinner together at a popular downtown restaurant that boasted fine dining with family values. Marcus Jefferson, a hardworking father who drove delivery trucks, wanted this night to be a small celebration of perseverance. His wife, Rochelle, had just finished a grueling nursing rotation. Their two kids, Kayla and Jordan, had been working hard in school, with Jordan even earning a spot on the honor roll. For the Jeffersons, this wasn't just dinner. It was an escape, a moment to breathe, laugh, and enjoy each other without the weight of the world pressing down. But little did they know, the night that started with love and anticipation would soon spiral into a storm of lies, humiliation, and racism, only to end with a twist so powerful it would leave an entire restaurant silent. As Marcus parked the family's old silver sedan in the crowded lot, he glanced at the glowing sign of the restaurant. LaBelle's Fine Dining and Grill. The place had been buzzing on social media for months. Celebrities had been spotted here. Food bloggers called it a taste of luxury. Kayla, the older of the two children at 15, giggled with excitement. "Dad, do you think we'll see someone famous?" "Baby girl, you never know," Marcus chuckled, straightening his modest dress shirt. He looked back at his son Jordan, age 12, who was fiddling with his phone. "Now listen, y'all," Rochelle said, leaning over the seat as they prepared to head in. "Tonight we're going to eat, laugh, and enjoy ourselves. Phones away unless you're taking pictures. All right?" Jordan groaned but slipped his phone into his pocket, secretly pressing record on the voice memo app, a habit he had picked up after his teacher accused him of something he didn't do. "Just in case," he muttered under his breath. The Jeffersons walked in, greeted by the scent of garlic butter and sizzling steaks. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above white tablecloths. Soft jazz drifted through the air. It should have felt welcoming, but almost immediately, something felt off. The hostess, a young woman with a forced smile, looked at them, then glanced at another staff member with a raised brow. Her tone was clipped, rehearsed. "Do you have a reservation?" "Yes, under Jefferson. 7:30, Marcus replied confidently. The hostess tapped her screen. "Right, well, it looks like we're running behind. Could be 30, maybe 40 minutes. Marcus frowned. "That's strange. I made the reservation last week." Behind them, a white couple approached. The hostess's expression brightened instantly. "Welcome. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, your table is ready. Please, right this way." Marcus exchanged a look with Rochelle. Kayla tugged his sleeve. "Dad, didn't they just say they were running behind?" The hostess avoided eye contact. "We'll seat you as soon as possible." Jordan whispered, "This feels shady." His phone was still quietly recording. After 45 uncomfortable minutes in the lobby, the Jeffersons were finally led to a small table near the kitchen doors. The spot was cramped and noisy compared to the spacious booths with views of the city skyline. "Excuse me," Rochelle said politely. "Could we maybe move to one of those open booths? It looks like they're available." The hostess stiffened. "Those are reserved for VIP guests. This is the best we can do for now." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he held his peace. "It's fine, babe. Let's just enjoy ourselves." Their server, a tall man with a cold smirk, arrived. He didn't bother with a greeting. "Drinks?" "Yes, I'll have," Rochelle began, but the waiter cut her off. "Just so you know, there's a dress code here. We normally don't allow sneakers." His eyes drifted down to Jordan's clean but casual shoes. Jordan froze, looking down at his feet. "But I didn't know." Kayla bristled. "He's just a kid." Marcus leaned forward, voice calm but firm. "Sir, we made a reservation. If there's an issue, you should have told us before seating us." The waiter shrugged, scribbled something on his pad. "Fine. What do you want to drink?" The Jeffersons exchanged uneasy glances. The night was unraveling. Despite the rocky start, the family tried to salvage the evening. They ordered meals, steaks, pasta, and a kid's burger for Jordan. When the food arrived, it was lukewarm, with Rochelle's salmon visibly undercooked. "Excuse me," she called gently. "This isn't safe to eat. Could I have this cooked a little more?" The waiter rolled his eyes. "That's how the chef prepares it. If you want it different, there's an upcharge." "An upcharge?" Rochelle repeated. "Yes, we'd have to remake it, so additional cost." By dessert, Marcus had had enough. "Check, please." When the bill arrived, Marcus's eyes widened. $240? He scanned the items. Dishes they never ordered, inflated prices, and service fees that made no sense. "This is wrong," he said. "We didn't order half of this." The waiter's smirk widened. "Well, sir, maybe you just forgot." "Forgot?" Kayla exclaimed. "We didn't even get an appetizer." The waiter shrugged again. "If you can't afford to eat here, maybe this isn't the place for you." Marcus's face flushed with anger. Rochelle gripped his arm. "Calm down. We'll handle this." But before Marcus could respond, Jordan quietly slid his phone onto the table. "Dad." "It's all recorded." Everyone froze. The Jeffersons sat frozen as Jordan placed his phone in the middle of the table, the glowing red line proving it had been recording since they entered. "What do you mean, recorded?" Marcus asked, his voice low but steady. Jordan bit his lip. "I started recording when we came in. Something felt off. It has everything. The hostess, the way they skipped us, the waiter talking about my shoes, the bill." Kayla's eyes widened. "Jordan, you're a genius." The waiter's smirk faltered. He leaned closer. "Turn that off. You can't record people without permission." Jordan crossed his arms defiantly. "Actually, in this state, it's legal if one person consents. And I consent." His voice trembled slightly, but his courage was undeniable. Marcus straightened, pride swelling in his chest. "Son, let's hear it." Jordan pressed play. The device echoed with crystal clarity. "Do you have a reservation? Could be 30, maybe 40 minutes. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, your table is ready. Normally, we don't allow sneakers. If you can't afford to eat here, maybe this isn't the place for you." The family listened, the truth spilling back into the air like undeniable evidence. Other diners began to glance over. Forks paused midair. Whispers floated through the restaurant. The waiter's face turned pale. "Give me that phone." He reached forward. Marcus's hand slammed against the table, rattling the silverware. His voice boomed with the authority of a man who had endured enough. "You touch that phone, and I'll call the police myself." The waiter froze. Moments later, the restaurant manager appeared. A tall man with slicked back hair, expensive shoes, and a fake smile that screamed arrogance. "I hear we have a problem?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Yes," Marcus said firmly, standing to meet him eye to eye. "Your staff overcharged us, disrespected my son, and we have it all recorded." The manager chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Sir, let's not make a scene. Maybe you misread the bill. Mistakes happen." Rochelle held up the check. "Mistakes don't add phantom appetizers and charge extra for cooking food properly." The manager's fake smile tightened. He glanced at Jordan's phone. "Turn that off and delete it. Now." Jordan clutched the phone tighter. Kayla stood up beside him. "No. Everyone should know what you're doing." The manager's eyes darkened. "Listen, people like you." He stopped mid-sentence, realizing too late the weight of his words. Marcus's jaw clenched. "People like us? Say it." The restaurant had gone silent. Every diner was watching now. A couple at a nearby table muttered, "This is disgusting." The manager's face flushed. "Look, if you don't calm down, I'll have security escort you out, and you'll still pay that bill." Jordan lifted his phone higher. "Go ahead. The whole world will see this." The manager froze. The tension was suffocating. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, a voice rose from across the dining room. "They're telling the truth." An older black woman stood, pointing toward the Jeffersons. "I saw how they treated them when they came in. Skipped right over them." Another diner chimed in. "Yeah, and the waiter was rude from the start. This is outrageous." Murmurs of agreement spread. Diners pulled out their own phones, recording. The balance of power shifted instantly. The manager's fake smile returned, weaker this time. All right. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. Let me adjust the bill. Marcus stepped closer, towering over him. No, you're not going to adjust it. You're going to admit what happened. In front of everyone here. The manager scoffed. That's ridiculous. Jordan played the recording again, this time louder. The waiter's sneer echoed through the restaurant. If you can't afford to eat here, maybe this isn't the place for you. Gasps filled the room. A woman at the bar shook her head. Unbelievable. The manager's composure cracked. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He glanced around, realizing he was losing control of the room. Kayla, her teenage voice strong and steady, stepped forward. You think you can scam families like us because you think no one will speak up. But guess what? You picked the wrong family tonight. Rochelle squeezed her daughter's hand. Marcus placed a protective arm around both kids. His voice a low growl. You're not just stealing money. You're trying to humiliate us. And my children caught you in 4K. The manager opened his mouth, but before he could respond, a man in a pilot's uniform, clearly a diner, not staff, stood up. If they don't walk out of here with an apology and a cleared bill, I'll personally blast this all over social media. And trust me, people listen to me. Phones everywhere rose higher, cameras flashing. The manager's empire of intimidation crumbled. Finally, with his face red and his pride shattered, he stammered, I apologize. Your meal will be comped in full. But Marcus wasn't satisfied. Say it clearly. Admit what you did. The manager swallowed hard. My staff acted unprofessionally. They overcharged you, and they disrespected your family. It won't happen again. The restaurant erupted in applause. Diners cheered. Some even stood, clapping for the Jeffersons. Jordan stopped the recording and smiled for the first time that night. Got it all. As the Jeffersons walked out, heads held high, strangers reached out to shake Marcus's hand, to pat Jordan on the shoulder, to whisper good job to Kayla. Outside, the cool night air felt like freedom. Rochelle hugged her kids tight. You too. I've never been prouder. Marcus looked at Jordan, his voice thick with emotion. Son, you turned the tables tonight. You showed them we're not powerless. You showed them we fight back. Jordan grinned, holding up his phone. And we've got the proof. The Jeffersons piled into their car, the city lights glowing around them. What began as a night of humiliation had transformed into a lesson in courage and resilience. And as they drove away, Marcus thought to himself, this story isn't over. The world is going to hear what happened tonight. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come from the powerful. Sometimes it comes from the smallest, bravest voice in the room. The Jeffersons drove in silence at first, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins. Rochelle sat in the passenger seat, glancing back at her children. Kayla stared out the window, her face glowing with quiet pride. Jordan held his phone like it was a trophy, still replaying the manager's forced apology. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. You know what you did tonight, son? You didn't just stand up for us. You stood up for every family who's ever been disrespected like that. Jordan's cheeks flushed. I just didn't want them to get away with it. Rochelle smiled softly. That instinct, that's how change begins. Kayla leaned forward. So, are we posting it? Or keeping it just for us? Marcus and Rochelle exchanged a look. The weight of the decision pressed on them. Once that video went online, it wouldn't just be their fight anymore. It would be everyone's. Marcus finally nodded. The truth needs to be seen. But we'll do it smart. No anger. Just facts. Later that night, in the safety of their living room, Jordan carefully edited the recording into a short, powerful clip. He added subtitles to highlight the most damning lines. If you can't afford to eat here, turn that off and delete it. Now, my staff acted unprofessionally. They overcharged you, and they disrespected your family. Kayla suggested a title. We went out for dinner. This is how they treated us. Marcus hesitated before pressing upload. His thumb hovered for a moment. Then, with a deep breath, he tapped the screen. The video was live. By morning, the video had already racked up thousands of views. By noon, it was in the hundreds of thousands. Hashtags spread like wildfire. Hashtag dining while black. Hashtag receipt racism. Hashtag justice for the Jeffersons. People from across the country shared the clip, outraged at the blatant discrimination. Civil rights advocates reposted it. Celebrities commented. News outlets picked it up, demanding answers from the restaurant. Jordan scrolled through the comments, wide-eyed. This is why receipts matter. Your kids are heroes. They thought they could silence you. Now the world is watching. Kayla beamed. We're trending. We're literally trending. At the restaurant, things unraveled quickly. Protesters gathered outside within days, holding signs that read, "Respect all customers" and "Stop the scam." Inside, staff members whispered nervously. Some quit on the spot, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. The once-packed dining room sat half-empty, the air heavy with shame. The manager who had sneered at the Jeffersons was nowhere to be seen. Rumors swirled, suspended, maybe fired. Corporate headquarters released a polished statement. We do not tolerate discrimination of any kind. We are investigating the incident and taking immediate action. But the damage was done. A week later, Marcus found himself sitting beside Rochelle on a local news set, with Jordan and Kayla flanking them. The anchor smiled warmly at the family. Marcus, Rochelle, what made you decide to share this recording? Marcus spoke calmly but firmly. Because this isn't just about us. It's about every family who's ever been told they don't belong. We wanted to show that you can fight back, even if it's just with a phone. The anchor turned to Jordan. Young man, you were the one who recorded it all. What gave you that idea? Jordan shrugged shyly. I just felt like something bad might happen. I wanted proof. I didn't know it would go this far. The studio audience applauded. Kayla chimed in, her teenage voice filled with conviction. Sometimes, people think kids don't notice what's going on, but we see it, and we won't stay quiet. The clip of the interview went viral too, cementing the Jefferson kids as unexpected voices of courage. As the story gained national attention, journalists dug deeper into the restaurant's history. Old complaints surfaced. Other families who claimed they'd been overcharged, ignored, or insulted. A former employee even came forward, revealing that the manager had once told staff to prioritize certain customers while discouraging service to others. The restaurant chain had no choice. They announced the manager's termination, along with mandatory anti-discrimination training across all locations. But for the Jeffersons, this wasn't about one man losing his job. It was about a message being sent. Weeks later, the Jeffersons still received messages from strangers. Parents thanked them for showing their kids that speaking up mattered. Activists used the recording as a teaching tool. Jordan's phone buzzed constantly with interview requests, but he remained humble. I didn't do it to be famous, he told one reporter. I just wanted the truth out there. Kayla, on the other hand, embraced her new role. She started a school club called Voices Unmuted, dedicated to teaching teens how to use their phones for accountability. Whether in classrooms, communities, or beyond, the Jeffersons had turned one ugly night into a movement. One evening, months after it all began, the family sat around their dinner table, this time at home, plates filled with Rochelle's cooking. Marcus raised his glass. To Jordan, to Kayla, and to Rochelle, for turning a scam into a stand. They clinked glasses. Rochelle smiled softly. You know, we went out that night just wanting a nice dinner. Instead, we got a lesson, a reminder, that our voices matter. Jordan grinned, and that you should always hit record when something feels wrong. Laughter filled the room, warm and genuine. The Jeffersons didn't ask to be symbols. They didn't plan to become viral heroes. But in one tense night, with one small phone, they exposed a truth bigger than themselves. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come from courtrooms or headlines. Sometimes, it comes from ordinary families, refusing to be silent. And in that refusal, change begins. It didn't take long before lawyers began reaching out to the Jeffersons. Civil rights organizations offered pro bono representation. Consumer protection agencies opened investigations. The Jeffersons hadn't planned on lawsuits, but as Marcus explained to Rochelle one night over coffee, if we don't hold them accountable legally, they'll just move on and do it again. So, with hesitation, they filed a case against the restaurant chain. Discriminatory practices, emotional distress, and attempted fraud. The case drew national headlines. In court, Jordan's recording played on giant monitors for the jury. The sneering voice of the manager echoed through the hushed chamber. If you can't afford to eat here, the jury members shifted uncomfortably, some shaking their heads. The evidence was undeniable. After weeks of testimony, the jury ruled in the Jeffersons' favor. The restaurant chain was ordered to pay a hefty settlement, not just to the Jeffersons, but also into a new fund supporting diversity training and community initiatives. When the verdict was read, Rochelle clasped Marcus's hand, tears streaming down her face. Jordan and Kayla hugged each other tightly. It wasn't about the money, it was about validation. Recognition that what happened to them was wrong, and that their voices had weight in a system that often ignored families like theirs. The Jefferson case became a flashpoint. Talk shows debated the issue. Editorials were written. Other families began sharing their own stories of being overcharged or mistreated in restaurants. The phrase, "check the receipt," became a slogan, spreading across social media. Parents taught their children to double-check bills. Civil rights groups launched campaigns encouraging customers to hold businesses accountable. For months, it seemed the Jeffersons' faces were everywhere. Yet, through it all, Marcus kept reminding his kids, fame fades. What matters is what you do with the platform while you have it. Jordan, once shy and reserved, grew more confident. He joined his school's debate team, channeling the same determination he'd shown that night in the restaurant. During a regional debate, he opened with a line that brought the audience to its feet. Evidence speaks louder than excuses. And sometimes, evidence is just pressing record. Kayla's club, Voices Unmuted, grew rapidly. Within a year, students across the state were forming chapters. She gave talks at schools, encouraging young people to stand up against injustice, whether in classrooms, cafeterias, or communities. Teachers marveled at her poise. "She's going to be a leader," one said. "Mark my words, this girl is unstoppable." For the restaurant chain, the fallout didn't end with the lawsuit. Shareholders demanded accountability. Executives were replaced. New policies rolled out. Clear receipts, transparent pricing, anti-bias training. But reputation was harder to rebuild. The chain never fully recovered from the stain of the scandal. For years, whenever its name appeared online, the top search results linked back to the Jefferson case. The manager who had caused it all disappeared from the public eye. Some said he'd moved out of state. Others whispered he tried to start over in a new industry. But wherever he went, the viral video followed. 2 years later, the Jeffersons were invited to Washington, D.C., to attend a congressional hearing on consumer protections. Lawmakers cited their case as proof that ordinary citizens needed stronger safeguards against discrimination and fraud. Sitting in the audience, Rochelle whispered to Marcus, "Can you believe this? All from one dinner gone wrong." Marcus squeezed her hand. Maybe it wasn't wrong. Maybe it was the dinner that woke people up. Jordan and Kayla watched wide-eyed as senators debated bills inspired, in part, by their story. For a family that once just wanted to enjoy a quiet night out, the ripple effect was staggering. Years later, the Jeffersons often reflected on how much had changed since that night. Jordan went on to study law, inspired by the courtroom battle that had turned the tide. He often told classmates, "My first case wasn't in law school. It was in a restaurant with my phone." Kayla pursued communications, building a nonprofit that trained teens nationwide to use storytelling and technology for justice. Marcus and Rochelle, meanwhile, continued to work their jobs, but with a renewed sense of purpose. "We didn't choose this fight," Rochelle often said, "but we chose not to back down." Imagine this, a quiet suburban home years later. The Jeffersons sit together at their dining table, candles flickering, laughter filling the room. A framed photo on the wall shows their family at the courthouse steps, holding hands, smiling with pride. The camera pans slowly to Jordan's old phone, now sitting in a display case on a shelf. A simple inscription reads, "Proof matters. Speak up." And as the image fades to black, the narrator's voice lingers. They went out for dinner, but came home with a story that shook a nation. One family, one phone, one truth. Because sometimes, change doesn't start with power. Sometimes, it starts with courage. Hit like if you stand against discrimination. Share this video to spread awareness, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional, eye-opening stories of justice and empowerment.